In this lesson, we'll learn a technique for cleaning up the transform values of joints. As we saw in the last lesson, our wrist joints were pretty messy. We have some non-zero values to clean up, so we'll take a look at how this can be done in a matter of just a few steps. Now, the first tool I'd like to show you is the Disconnect Joint tool. Take a look at what this will do. We'll head over to our outliner. I'd like to leave this open so you can see exactly what's going to happen when we use this tool. So with our right wrist selected, let's go to Skeleton and we'll grab the Disconnect Joint tool. You'll see that Maya has created an exact copy of the joint that we have just disconnected. The original joint has been separated from the arms hierarchy. Now the beauty of this is we can simply take this original joint and parent it back to the new joint Maya made and use that to clean up all of the transform values of the original joint, which is super cool. Now this Disconnect Joint tool will work on any child joint but no root joint. If we were to go ahead and try to grab the root of the skeleton and use that same tool, it's not going to happen. So remember, it's only for child joints. Okay, let's go ahead and take the new joint that Maya made and let's go ahead and rename it, just to always stay clear. We're going to go ahead and rename this to BE_R wrist 01. So again, we won't skin to this. This is just a way of connecting our wrist. From here, let's go to the original wrist. Let's go ahead and remove its orient constraint node. And once it's been removed, we can now go ahead and take that bone object and parent it to the new joint. Alright, so watch. You can see that the transform values of the original joint have already been cleaned up. So for rotation, this is actually going to be a two-step process. Let me go ahead and bring back the character here. You'll see that when we zero out our rotate values, yes, the wrist is going to shift because we also have to zero out the joint orient values of the same object. Let's press Ctrl A with it selected to move over to our attribute editor. We'll find our joint orient channels and let's go ahead and zero those out. Beautiful. So now we're left with where we started from. And not only that, but take a look. All transform values on BN/R wrist are fully clean. Very exciting stuff. All right. Now, something else to keep in mind is that if we were to go ahead and get back to our IKs group, let's go ahead and show the objects inside of that group. We'll just go ahead and set the visibility back to on. You'll see that the new joint is still connected to the IK system. So that's super cool. When we grab our control object and start to pull it, again, everything's connected just fine. We just have to worry about controlling the orientation of that wrist again. We know how to do that. Again, we can work with a locator. So what I'll do is go ahead and actually take the IK handle here, and we can go ahead and remove its point constraint if we like. The reason being is because when we go ahead and align that locator to the wrist, we could use that locator as the object that drives the entire arm. So we could always point and orient constrain our objects here to that locator if we like. That way they're all tied to just one object instead of a point constraint being here and an orient constraint being elsewhere. So it's just a way of keeping things more manageable. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll go ahead and grab our point constraint and let's go ahead and remove it. All right, once that is done, let's go ahead and create our locator. We'll go ahead and bring up its scale. Because right now we can't even see it. There it is. All right, and we could always just go ahead and kind of move this over so it's easier to select. All right, next, let's go ahead and rename this locator. That's going to be LOCDRV R ARM 01. Now, we can go ahead and parent to BN/R wrist. Beautiful. So we now have the exact space that this object is in. We can go ahead and now zero out our locator. Once it's been aligned, we can now press Shift P to unparent it. Beautiful stuff. Let's go ahead and hide the character again and finish this arm up. So now it's just a matter of point constraining our IK handle to this locator. So with the locator selected, we'll shift select the IK handle and we'll apply a point constraint. Beautiful. And now we can go ahead and orient constrain our wrist to that same locator. So we'll grab the locator, we'll grab BNR wrist, and now we can go ahead and grab our orient constraint. Take a look, no offset at all. Our bone object is completely clean still. How exciting. So now it's just a matter of taking our locator and parenting it to our arm control. So now we can safely go in and hide the locator, and not only are we left with the same control we had before, but our wrist is very clean. It's completely clean, which is very nice. Remember what we had before? We even had translate values before, but now all of that is gone. Very nice. So it's going to be the same process for the left arm. I'll go ahead and leave that up to you because, again, the steps are exactly the same. And that way you can get familiar with these steps and they'll become second nature to you. But in this lesson, we've learned how to clean up the transform values of joint objects. We can go ahead and start with the disconnect joint tool. Remember, it works for child joints, but not root joints. And then we can also work with our locator technique to make sure that we can constrain to an object that's completely aligned to that joint so we don't have any offset issues to worry about.